case Kawaki's good. So it might just be that.
I mean, when
But that's kind of
Madara
weird. But
did Divine Deep Forest Emergence, how do we think that works? Because he did it across the entire world. So do you think it's just like Hashirama, to where he's just using his Kekkei Genkai to practically manifest wood out of nowhere? Or do you think it's that the Divine Tree, when it was the Divine Tree, it spread its roots, similar to Black Zetsu all across the world. The roots of the Divine Tree spread across the world. Tree. Yeah, and Madara is using Divine Deep Forest Emergence. It's just making those roots pop out of the ground that are already there.
That's the cooler answer for sure. He's using the old Divine Tree that Kaguya once used.
Let me go further with it. As
an answer.
Let me go further with it.
I'll try looking it up and see if...
Because I think those roots would still be there in the ground, which means that could be Matsuri's trees.
That would be really cool. I'm not gonna lie. All that would be cool.
Yeah.
God, nativity of a world of trees. That's probably Divine Deep Forest Emergence. The gigantic divine tree consumes life, becoming a nursery for white slaves. That's definitely the thing. Those affected by infinite Tsukoyomi are captured by the branches of the god tree. Well, so this is just not work if you're not affected by the infinite Tsukoyomi. The chakras that absorb continuously.
Well, no, it would.
Yeah. Those are captured by the branches of the god tree.
Yeah. So I think I was just right. But no, I think it would work if we take the Kaguya filler to be canon. And you can discard it because it's inconsistent, but I think some things you can say is canon.
The tree kind of just goes into the ground or whatever.
Well, what I was going to say is that Kaguya routinely schedules people to go to the god tree to sacrifice themselves, even though they obviously clearly aren't under Infinite Tsukuyomi. And so if you just go near the tree, and just like Tenzo, was that the guy? Tenzo's assistant was saying, the girl, the divine tree's been there for millennia. If you're careful, if you go near it, it's gonna attack you. And so clearly that's been a thing that they've known and has just already been doing.
Yeah, they just kind of accepted it as a divine dream. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Infinite Tsukuyomi just stops them from fighting back.
And while that's happening, their chakras are getting zapped out in the dream world.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now,
I like the idea that this is Matsuri's trees, though. She's just using Kaguya's former one. Maybe she doesn't realize that's what it is, but...
Well, but in my opinion...
That's just cool.
In my opinion, and me and Kamui have gone back and forth on this, so we don't necessarily have to, but I don't think we've got Immortal's opinion on this yet. In my opinion, the Zetsuification comes from being wrapped in the Divine Tree's paper thing, not from the Infinite Tsukuyomi.
So this is what's weird, though. So, like, this description it's basically saying those who have their chakra absorbed and / are connected to the vital energy of the god tree becomes Zetsu, which basically means it's this technique. But for some reason, it's only those affected by Infinite Tsukuyomi that are captured by this. And Zetsu's saying, the Infinite Tsukuyomi does it. For some weird reason, it almost makes me hate the Infinite Tsukuyomi in terms of this aspect. But the Infinite Tsukuyomi is just not necessary for this. It feels like it shouldn't be. It's like they're saying it is. You can't do it without this. But why?
I mean, I think it just makes it easier because, I mean, we see the Divine Tree wrapping people up before then and they're fighting back. And to be fair, they're not winning, but those are just the fodder people. Like, yeah, it captures Naruto, but that's a Naruto who's already basically out of chakra anyways. I feel like some of the higher level shinobi are just fighting back. Like the Edo Tensei, they're fighting back as well. Obviously, the tree's not going for them, but like, you get the idea. They're able to like be relative to the tree in a weird way.
Yeah, but like, for example, though, you just wouldn't need all the extra steps of Infinite Tsukuyomi if you just skip to this. Because if Obito just used this jutsu when he was the Tento Jinchuriki, boom, and like the stone tablet just says this will give them the world of dreams, so they don't need Infinite Tsukuyomi. Just the god nativity of a world of trees puts people in the world of dreams. World of trees, world of dreams. If that's what Zetsu's stone tablet said, then Obito could have just clapped his hands together, captured the entire world, and boom, Zetsu backstabs, absorbs it. He doesn't need all the extra steps of the Tsukuyomi. It's not easier, it's harder.
I don't think that's the case. So where are you getting if you're in the divine tree, you are in a dream from.
No, I'm saying if Zetsu just lied and said in the stone tablet that being in the
Oh,
world of trees will put you in a world of dreams.
okay.
And so they just believe it because it's the stone tablet in the first place. Then Zetsu can just skip the next 100 episodes and have already got to
I see what you're saying practically, yes, but if I were to defend this, and I think it is fair to say this, you could say that that's less likely to actually manipulate shinobi history, which is what he's trying to do. Would Madara have fallen for that? Because the whole thing with Infinite Tsukiyomi, Madara explains what it is when he Genjutsu's Obito right before dying by showing him this is like a blank canvas, and with Infinite Tsukiyomi, you can apply this blank canvas to everyone, and they can determine the role of Genjutsu.
Said. What he says just isn't Infinite Tsukiyomi.
But it's like the same like principle at the very least. He's like explaining that's what's gonna happen in Infinite Tsukiyomi.
Yeah, he's explaining the jutsu he's not gonna do. I can just project my will upon and create whatever I want, even control them. Anything is possible, and blah blah blah. We'll use this jutsu to create the ideal world, and then we'll cast genjutsu upon everyone else and bring them here.
Yeah. I don't know why you emphasized here.
Well, the point is, he's saying that he can control things and blah blah blah. That's not what he's doing.
Well, no, they're not saying that he's going to go to Madara's Genjutsu where Madara controls everything. I don't think that's what he meant.
Well, no, but he's explaining, like, I can control whatever. I can create whatever I want. And that we'll use this Genjutsu, the Genjutsu Madara is using right now, my Genjutsu, this Genjutsu, to create the ideal world, and then cast it upon everyone.
Yeah.
He's basically saying he's going to create the ideal world. Not that the Infinite Tsukiyomi is just going to give people their own dream world.
I can see how you're interpreting it that way, but either way.
Anyway, I got to walk away from my screen for a minute. Go get some chicken.
Okay, so do we want to go to next thing, or?
Well, the next thing was, what's your thoughts on the Jogan making an appearance, presumably in this arc? And I'm going to walk away.
Okay, Immortal, did you have anything to say?
Oodie wants to read this for me.
If you want to zoom in.
I guess I could. Let me see.
Well, actually, you guys just give your thoughts first.
Well, Immortal, okay, I guess while Kamui's going away anyways, do you want to give your interpretation on the Infinite Tsukiyomi thing, like everything we were saying there? Since we did say a lot.
For the Infinite Tsukiyomi creating like the ideal world, honestly, well, what was the context of the question?
Well, the whole point. First of all, do you think we'll go step by step? Do you think Madara using Divine Deep Forest Emergence was Madara just manifesting wood style across the world, or do you think that was the roots of the Divine Tree? Well, I guess the data book already answered that. It just is the roots of the Divine Tree. You would agree with that, I would assume? Hopefully. It'd be cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that was Hashirama's ability at first.
Well, Hashirama has Deep Forest Emergence, and Madara has Hashirama Cells, so I can see the confusion, since I thought the same thing. But
I was like, huh, that's a little weird, because shouldn't Hashirama be able to do?
I mean, it makes sense for it to be the God Tree's roots anyways, since it's absorbing their chakra, and Kagyu uses those roots to get her chakra back, and that Zetsu uses those roots to infuse all that chakra into Madara, etc., etc. So it makes sense for it to be randomly not Madara's wood style. I mean, even then, Hashirama's wood style, whenever it's like absorbing chakra or whatever, it's not giving it back to Hashirama. So
fair enough.
It's almost like a sponge in a way.
Yeah.
Okay, but then the next thing is, do you think the Infinite Tsukiyomi, or being wrapped in the God Tree... Well, okay, forget the... Do you think if you're wrapped in the God Tree, you are under any kind of genjutsu, or seeing any dreams, or anything like that?
Well, no, because when Naruto was being wrapped up, he wasn't under any genjutsu. He was just
Well, that's
getting
a
his
different,
chakra life.
That's a different divine tree wrapping, to be fair.
If anything, it's
Are
just
you, if you're
more.
talking,
The paper one.
To be fair,
I
the
was
the
just
wood
saying,
one
like,
just should
yeah.
be more.
Well, because you said like if you're automatically wrapped up in the god tree's, branch or whatever it is, you're under genjutsu. I was just like, well, no, because like when Naruto was getting captured by the god tree, he was pretty much getting wrapped up, and his chakra was just getting sucked out, and
Yeah,
he was pretty much gonna get zeroed out into oblivion.
I
But
agree.
he wasn't under any genjutsu.
Yeah, so he
Now,
Well, two
was
the only time
things.
that
falling
Well, two things.
asleep, but I think that's because he was losing all his chakra more than a genjutsu type thing, anyways.
Yeah. Because chakra is
Two
tied
things.
to everyone's life force, and without it, you won't. Without it, you won't live.
Yeah,
Real quick though, that's not what I was saying.
I know.
Second,
But
Yeah.
the second thing though you could consider is that in the data book thing explains with the Madara jutsu there, it specifically connects all the people who are wrapped up's vital energy to the divine tree. That's like the Setsuification. Which when they just get absorbed and die, clearly they're not doing that. They're just getting absorbed. So it's doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, well, I would also point to the Kaguya filler, to where the people inside those divine trees are also asleep without the infinite Tsukiyomi. Like whenever Hagoromo Hamura goes to them. To be fair, those people are already dead, so that's not sleeping, but you get the idea. And also Zetsu's explanation, those people are sleeping. Those could be infinite Tsukiyomi as well, but I don't know. Either way. I would say if it was the case to where they're having the Itachi picosecond genjutsu type thing, then I think Kaguya would have said that to Hagoromo and Hamura whenever they're confronting her. Like, yes, she died, but she died peacefully in a world of dreams. And that would be her way to convince Hagoromo or Hamura that what she's doing isn't wrong, or etc.
But at
etc.
the same time, the whole point was she was using infinite Tsukuyomi on the population. And then,
Again, she did that at first, but then she released people for Hagoromo and Hamura's sake, seemingly. Either way, she was sending alive and awake and conscious and aware people to the divine tree to be wrapped up. Those people were not under Tsukuyomi.
Why don't you just do a mini infinite Tsukuyomi for them?
I mean,
knows?
I don't think you can, because Infinite Tsukiyomi is bouncing it off the moon, which just does affect everyone, because I do think what Madara performed on Obito was Infinite Tsukiyomi. He was just projecting the beam at Obito rather than the moon.
Well, I think that's just not infinite Tsukiyomi, then. I think that's just Tsukiyomi, basically. Is that Madara's Genjutsu ability?
Yeah, well, again, that's where you get into the discrepancy of, is Infinite Tsukiyomi an ability he can just perform himself, or is it specifically only when it's shot off of the moon? How exactly does it work? I think to a degree it's both, to where they both share the same name but have a different meaning. So the jutsu is Infinite Tsukiyomi, and whenever you bounce it off the moon, that's Infinite Tsukiyomi.
Yeah, but when Madara's doing it, though, it's not Obito's dream world or even Madara's dream world just being there. He's literally creating it by hand, just doing a different thing.
Yeah, he's explaining to Obito how the jutsu is going to work. But he, again, you already pulled it up, he's saying, using this jutsu, everyone goes here, or whatever.
Yeah, so this jutsu isn't the infinite Tsukuyomi where everyone's in their own dream world. He brought Obito to Madara's own genjutsu that they're in together. It's different things.
Okay, so then what is that jutsu that Madara used, not Obito?
It's either the original Infinite Tsukuyomi and it got retconned, or it's not the Infinite Tsukuyomi.
I think it is Infinite Tsukiyomi. The difference is, because Madara explains it as well, he doesn't have the power to perform Infinite Tsukiyomi himself, because only with the God Tree will you have the power to do that, aka bouncing it off the moon. But I think it also makes the jutsu itself more powerful. But I think because it's Madara's projecting this onto Obito, he can have just control and to do either everything or nothing, and have Obito believe it or not believe it or whatever.
I mean, to some extent, I think, you can just disagree the same way that we disagree about Kishimoto's plans for Itachi. I think Kishimoto just changed his mind of what the Infinite Tsukuyomi was gonna be. I think at first, Madara and Obito planned to literally create their own perfect worlds, whereas later it just became everyone's own perfect world.
I mean, the thing is, I feel like to a degree it's for the audience as well, not just for Obito to explain how Infinite Tsukuyomi is going to work. Because otherwise, I feel like if Madara is just trying to show Obito Infinite Tsukuyomi, or just genjutsuing him to simulate Obito's Infinite Tsukuyomi, I mean, Madara would know what it would look like, then Obito in that scene just would have seen, like, a perfect world with Rin and stuff alive again.
Exactly.
And so because
that's what Infinite Tsukuyomi would be, and he's not showing up.
Well, for Rin, for Obito, I mean. Yeah, and obviously that's not Madara's either. But what I'm saying, that is what the Infinite Tsukuyomi is. Infinite Tsukuyomi is like the game console rather than the game. The players insert the game. So Madara started the console, he just hasn't inserted any game yet. He's still at the home screen. Because it's a blank canvas.
Okay, but then that's making it seem like Madara gets to choose the game, but that's just not how Infinite Tsukuyomi worked in practice. They didn't choose their world; the world just was their world.
Well, I think they subconsciously chose their world.
Okay, but Madara is consciously choosing it.
Yeah, I agree because he's the one in control, so he's like able to do that at that time.
Yeah, why is he okay? But nobody else is able to do that.
What do you mean?
Nobody gets to choose their world. The world just is their world.
Well, I disagree.
Nobody
I think
gets to consciously choose, because if they could, the people like Hinata would have just chosen the same world she's used to before she even tried the new world.
I disagree with that.
She didn't want to go there in the first place, so she would have just not done it.
See, I feel like you're just missing things with that. I don't even want to talk about this. Because what was her Infinite Tsukuyomi?
There's in the manga, I think it's just her and Naruto being smiling. In the anime, I don't remember specifically what.
So her ideal world.
But she didn't want to go there.
Yeah, but because she's in it, she doesn't realize she's in it.
She does know she's in it in the anime. She literally realizes it. So does Tenten. There's a whole episode about her knowing she's in it and everything.
Bro, this is so stupid. First of all, Tenten, we already know about Tenten. I'm not even going to address Tenten, who went to the Road to Ninja movie, was literally physically teleported. It doesn't matter,
she still knew.
She was literally... Okay, again, Tenten is the exception who went to Road to Ninja. Nobody else knows. You're only saying that because as she's being wrapped up, she still has her consciousness.
Yamato has a whole episode debating on whether he belongs in this world or not, bro. Like,
Yamato wanted
he has to be convinced by the Infinite Tsukuyomi that he belongs there.
Okay, at no point did Yamato not want to be there.
He was definitely at least hesitant.
But that's his character. He's a freaking weirdo anyways. If he didn't want to be there, that's because his personality is to not want to be there. It's like being emo.
No,
it's
but
a
at the end of the
character
episode,
flaw.
he wants to be there. At the end of the episode, he wants to be there when he gets convinced.
Yeah, and that's his character. To do that. It's like a goth or an emo person. It just makes sense.
If his personality is to not want to be there and he can consciously change the world, he would have consciously changed the world to not be there. In his mind, at least.
It's like people who like want to be humiliated. You don't want it, but you want it.
And he would have been humiliated in this world.
It's... Okay, you completely missed the point that I was saying there. I'm not saying Yamato wanted to be humiliated at all.
My point is, if he wanted the blank thing, he would have consciously changed it to be that way if he could. You can't do that.
He didn't want to do that, though. It's the people... It's like
he didn't want to be humiliated.
I'm not saying you want to be humiliated. Again, I'm going to say this next thing.
I'm using your example.
It's like people who want to cut themselves. Kid Gaara wanted to hurt himself.
Yeah, because he wants to know what pain felt like.
Pain isn't desirable.
But he wants to know what it feels like. He's curious, like Jura.
That's the stupidest thing ever. He knows what pain feels like. His heart hurts.
Yeah, but he didn't know the difference because it wasn't bleeding.
Okay, and you can apply this to the real world if you don't want to use Gar, who's the most obvious allegory of all time for people who cut themselves.
Look, all I'm saying is, I think Kishimoto changed his mind on what the Infinite Tsukuyomi was gonna be when he first wrote it versus the end.
And I'm saying it projects their subconscious of what they want.
Okay, that's not what I think Kishimoto originally intended the Infinite Tsukuyomi to be.
Well, but we're seeing the original intention here. That is the blank
No,
canvas.
well, actually, no, we're not. The original intention would be like coming up soon here when Obito explains.
Okay, but you weren't referencing this. You were referencing the blank canvas.
Well, I was going to use both together because both were
Okay.
similar. Was what I was going to do. That's why I was looking this up before I already started looking for the chapter before I even mentioned it. Let's need Obito to talk.
Well, Immortal, what do you think?
Well, it's weird. If he's projecting his subconsciousness to the moon, and the moon is just beaming right back on in everybody's mind, and whatever they're dreaming about for their ideal world is whatever it is, then that's a little, that seems pretty, I don't know. To me, I think it seems pretty overpowered, but I don't know what else to say.
Overpowered is not what we were arguing about.
I don't know.
Look, this is what Obito first says. They'll be under my genjutsu. By controlling them all, I shall unify the world. Controlling them all. I can create whatever I want, even control them. Anything's possible. We'll use this genjutsu to create the ideal world. Blah, blah, blah. This is implying that they're just going to control everyone. Almost like Koto Matsugami. In my opinion. Like we can, if you disagree, that's fine. We'll just move on. But I think Kishimoto originally had the Infinite Tsukuyomi to be more like them controlling everyone to make them peaceful, whereas later on it just became everyone in their own ideal dream world.
So, I don't want to just move on because we disagree, but I will say, I think, whereas I see why you're saying that, I think it is still open to interpretation because it's still going with what Madara is saying secondly. Again, if you want to say it changed from the first time to the second time, that being the blatant canvas thing that Madara is explaining, that's fine. But I think the first instance, I don't really care to use that either way. It could be either way if he changed or not. I don't think that matters. The whole point is when he decided to lock it in, which I do think it was, that Madara example.
I think you locked it in later in the work with I don't know specifically when it's, but when Obito's like talking about the dream world and all that shit. Eventually later on is what I think.
So how is the Madara Infinite Tsukuyomi different from the later on interpretation that you have?
Wait, what do you mean? This?
Yeah, how is this different from how it's actually used?
Because Madara doesn't create whatever he wants and control them and create the ideal world. He doesn't do any of that. He just the Infinite Tsukuyomi itself just does it.
Well,
he's not projecting his will upon anyone else's stuff. He's just not doing that.
Well, he's saying anything is possible in this genjutsu, is the whole point.
Yeah, but it's that he can do anything.
Okay, but then he's saying, we will use this genjutsu to create the ideal world.
Because he's saying, you, other Madara, who is now me, will help me do this. You and I will together do this. He's gaslighting him in that sense, but
I think you're just taking the words too literally instead of like looking at the concept of the blank canvas.
I think you're just trying to fight them as being the same as later on.
So
I just think he originally had it be, we're gonna create it's like Itachi's Tsukuyomi for Izumi. He's just gonna create what he thinks is the best and do that. That's just what I think it originally was gonna be.
Okay, so later on, you agree that that's obviously not the case, since you're saying it's a different interpretation anyways. And we agree on the later interpretation that it's not Madara projecting his will onto others of what Madara thinks
Exactly. Just everyone's
wants.
just. It's either the tree figures it out or their subconscious creates it for themselves. However it happens, it's not Madara doing anything.
Yeah, so we would agree on that. I do think it is their subconscious. And based on that, I think it's overlaying onto the blank canvas, which I think is what matters here, not the Madara parts that I think you are taking too literally. Because this is Madara showing Obito through this genjutsu.
But you can say that. You can say this is the turning point. I think it happens a little bit later. That's fine. But
well, I don't think there was a turning point, since I think the other interpretation from this one, yeah.
So
I
you
think this is left
that this
open.
one, that Obito's saying, I will control them all and unify the world, you think this is also just going to be the other one?
I'm saying it's still possible. Not that it definitively is, or even that it's the most likely necessarily, but I think it's definitely possible.
All I'm going to say is, if you think that, I don't want to hear another word about Itachi still actually being a villain in part 1 and not having figured out a decent amount of his spying double agentship.
Why?
Because I think there's just blatant foreshadowing signs for Itachi. And whereas this one, they're just using an interpretation that we, I guess, disagree on.
Well, what I would say here is by controlling them all, and if you go to the second panel, the other one, the blank canvas one, other tab, yeah. He's again saying the controlling them all thing, but as we clearly know, that's not literally what's happening. What I think is happening here, and what I think he means when he said this, even back here, isn't that he's literally controlling them through the genjutsu. He's putting them under the genjutsu, but what he's doing is allowing them to control themselves, and we do see instances of this through genjutsu. So he's controlling them to control themselves, similar to whenever Sasuke and Itachi put themselves under genjutsu, similar to when, I think it was Sarada put herself under genjutsu fighting Boruto in the Mitsuki retrieval arc. Like, we have multiple instances of something like this. Even Menma amplifying Naruto through his genjutsu weird thing or whatever that was.
That wasn't even genjutsu, that was just ninjutsu or something. I don't even know what it was.
It was kind of genjutsu. You get the idea.
I mean, we'll just agree to disagree and move on. I feel like I've said my part, so. But anyway,
Definitely should